pleasure to be with you this morning. I apologize that I missed yesterday. I was a little under the weather. Something tried to get a hold of me for about a day, and thankfully God provided some healing, and so I'm just about back to 100%. But I hope you are well this morning. I hope your day has begun well. Sorry we're late, but here we are, and we're continuing our look this week at are we helpful or are we haughty with our Christian lives, and are we being helpful? Are we being able to express our Christian lives to other people in such that it draws them to Christ, or are we just being a jerk? Let's just call it that. And I think there's much to be said here. This came on the request of another, and so I was happy to dive into this from the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And 1 Corinthians chapter 13, most people only know this chapter because it's read at weddings. It's challenged to young couples, but it should be challenged to every Christian. It should be brought out before them every day and read. It should be at the forefront of our mind to realize that we can have many things and many dynamics to our faith, and if we don't have love, then we're as sounding brass and we're as nothing. So this morning, very quickly, we're going to take a look at faith. And I want to read to you, he says, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. And what a sobering verse this morning. He says I could have all these things. I could have prophecy, mysteries, and then he kind of sums them up with faith. So prophecy, we understand, is a very big thing, and there's much to be said from different groups within the umbrella of Christianity about prophecy and whether it still exists and what it looks like and what exactly prophecy means. And some would like to turn it just to discernment. Some would like to turn it to different things. But the truth of the matter is, it is written as prophecy in this book. And he says here to the church at Corinth, he said, you can understand, or you can have the gift of prediction to understand what's going to happen. And if you don't have love, you're not willing to put your love into action, he said, you're just going to be a jerk. And so he says, I can understand all mysteries and have these great understandings and revealings of the faith. Have you ever met somebody that you believe, they're like, man, they just got it. They understand it. Their faith is deep and dynamic, and man, we just love listening to them. Well, they're those type of people. They're not very enjoyable to listen to if they're a jerk. And so we see this in here. He says, I could do all this, and he sums it all up, and he says, I could have faith. I could have all faith so as to remove mountains, and without charity, I am nothing. You know, churches today and religious groups, if you will, and would like to base their value and their prominence and their stature and their place upon their faith. You know, if we can remove mountains, we're certainly better than the one down the road. If we can pray and see somebody healed, we are certainly better than the person down the road. When the truth of the matter is that none of us are better than the other. The redeemed in Christ stand on a level ground. We stand at a level ground at the foot of the cross and at the opening of the tomb, understanding that Jesus Christ died for all, and understanding that the same sacrifice that purchased your forgiveness and your pardon purchased mine as well. And that same forgiveness stands ready and willing to purchase whoever, the addict or the agnostic or the atheist or whoever else, stands ready to purchase their pardon as well. It would put none of us higher than the other. It would put none of us at a place where we could ever say, well, you don't have it as good as we have it. I remember my cousin, by marriage, who is a pastor, was in a local eating establishment a couple years ago, and another local pastor was sitting on the table next to him. And this man had been pastoring for several years, and so my cousin looks at him and he says, He says, did you all have a great worship service today? And this very seasoned saint looks at him and says, oh, yes. Did you? And my cousin went on to say, yes, we did. And when the seasoned saint heard that, he looked and he said, oh, I bet you didn't have one like we had. And then he went on to tell him how their worship service and their church service would have been so much better than anybody else's. Today we'll understand that if we can have the greatest worship service, we can have the greatest technology to stream and to push the presence of our church out there. We can have the most programs and we can have the most people in a building. But until we act and move with love, then we are nothing. Paul said, we are nothing. You know, Christianity today is coming under attack, and the easiest thing to do when we come under attack, whether it's in our personal life or our family or our religious life, whatever it may be, whenever we come under attack, that the easiest thing to do is to get mad. The easiest thing to do is get mad and basically say, let's fight. You know, we don't have to be a jerk. We don't have to fight that battle. Jesus Christ did. And He won that battle on the cross of Calvary. And so we don't have to be puffed up. We don't have to be arrogant. We don't have to be mean. We don't have to stand back and say, I've got something that you don't. Rather, we should be like Paul was. And Paul declared, he said in the book of Romans, he said, I would that I could be accursed from Christ for my brother and my kinsman according to the flesh. He said, I'll put that in today's terms. He said, I'd give up my seat in heaven if I could get them in. That's how much I love them. Boy, are we acting and moving in love today? Are we helpful or are we haughty? Some good questions today. Go back and read 1 Corinthians 13 and read it with a mind frame of maybe not thinking about a wedding, but thinking about your life in Christ. Listen, we know that Jesus Christ is the author and finisher of our faith. And if He gives us a great faith and we can look to Him and have a great faith, that still puts us above nobody else. Puts us in a place to help others. So let's do that today. I pray that you have a wonderful day. Pray that God blesses you abundantly.